Hello, what's up? Okay, so today, my friends, again, we are still sticking with our speaking standards, SL 7.4, which means that during your panel preparation, you want to be thinking about what your strengths are. So, everyone has strengths when it comes to public speaking. Just because some of us are scared of it does not mean we're not already walking in with strengths for this. For some of us, it's just preparing for the conversation itself. That is a strength. If you come prepared, that's a big strength for you. If you usually have no problem having adequate volume, that's a strength for you. If you tend not to speak too fast, you have good pacing, that's a strength for you. If you're a good listener and you're patient while other people speak and make eye contact with the speaker, that's something wonderful, right? Like that is a strength. Now, I call strengths something that we glow in. So it's a glow. I want you to be thinking, like yesterday, what is something that you can grow in? Because we also have room for improvement. So for me, my glow area is that I am a good listener. I am patient while others are speaking. A growth area for me would be having enough prepared, but not like I'm really good at preparing my work, but not having too much prepared so it seems like robotic when I'm speaking. I want to kind of go off the cuff. I don't want to just read my answers word for word. I want to make it seem like a more natural, organic conversation with others. So that's what I'm going to try and work on. I'm going to have my questions for the panel prepared, but I'm going to try and go off the cuff, meaning that if someone brings up a different side topic, I'm going to add on to it if it pertains to our question. Okay, so if you're one of my in-person students, we're going to hit up the library just to return books and get a new one. Okay, otherwise, the rest of you can just go ahead and start with the panel prep. These are the questions you will be answered or that will be answered for the panel discussion. So click that. You will need to go to File, make a copy, because I didn't put it as an assignment. I just did File, make a copy of this. And this is just for your usage. I don't need to know how you answer the questions. They could be in bullet format, not in full sentences, as long as they make sense to you. So File, make a copy, label it your last name, panel discussion questions. So if it were me, I would put Benitez panel discussion questions, right? I'm not going to make a copy though. So let's go over these questions. Don't get overwhelmed. It looks like a lot, but you want to be as prepared as possible. The bottom of this page is how you will be assessed. It is your rubric because this is a graded discussion. Now, as I talked about, you are not graded as a group. You are graded as individuals, right? You are participating back and forth as a group, but you're going to be graded individually. So you want to be prepared for what you are going to say. So let's just go over the rubric first. A 4 would be a student makes inferences to go beyond a text, saying things like the character is probably feeling this way because blah, 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 blah. That could be an inference, right? Or now we're not necessarily talking about characters, but we can be talking about our own grandparents or our own family members of a different generation. I know my mom probably feels this way because in her day and age, hard work was valued over electronics or whatever I'm trying to say. That's an inference. Okay. Or student relates a text to their own experience. So again, this reminds me of, when I was 5 and I didn't understand why my parents were blah, 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 right? Like I'm making a personal experience. Or a student makes an inference from their personal experience, okay? And then a 4 for speaking skills. You're consistently making eye contact with whoever's talking. Or if you're on one of my virtual students, you're looking at the camera. Okay. Now, of course, glancing at your notes, but you're not just looking down. Okay. You're looking up at the screen. If you're an in-person student, you're going to be looking across or next to you for whoever's talking, maybe even nodding your head in agreement, just not necessarily to say that you agree with them, but you understand what they're saying. You're speaking clearly. You're not mumbling. You don't have your hands in front of your face like this because that's mumbling. It's hard to hear, right? And then you're adjusting your volume so you're not talking this soft because it's really hard to hear when you're talking this soft. Do you guys hear what I just said? Yeah, me neither. Okay, talk to project your voice even if you are online. And sometimes when we get nervous, we try to talk really fast and we get really nervous and we're talking really fast and it's just hard to understand what you're saying. What? Okay, try and slow down because when we're nervous, we talk fast. All right. A 3 would look like you're using evidence from in-class readings or personal experience, but you're not necessarily going beyond the text to make an inference on why someone would feel that way, whether it's a character from one of our texts or from your personal experience. Right. But you're still on task and focused for a 3. And then a 2 and 1 you can read, but those are not proficient. You always want to aim for the 4. Okay, let's go back up. So question 1. The big thing is, what new knowledge or skills can you learn from someone of a different generation? So part A, what specific stories or passages have you read during this unit that can support the learning from another generation? So you need to specifically, you're not just listing the stories, you're listing them, but probably taking 1 or 2 of those stories and explaining how someone is learning from someone of a different generation. You might refer back to your text evidence log even for this, or your textbook, your Savvis textbook. B, what personal experience can you share that supports the idea of one generation? So this is in your life and something that you would feel confident enough to share with your small group. Besides technology, how do younger generations influence or affect older generations? So you guys aren't just useful for your tech skills, you guys. You have so much more to offer. So what is that? Give examples. Number 3, why do you think there's such a disconnect between older and younger generations? Why is there a gap? Just your personal opinion, right? A lot of parents will say things like, I don't want you to make the same mistake I did, or I want better for you than what I had. Number 2 and 3 are kind of optional questions that if we get time, we'll get to. That's why they're highlighted in a light gray. The mandatory questions are 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, but I'm still reading through all of them. 4, how does the life lesson of empathy, which is the ability to understand the feelings of another person, how does empathy show itself in the passages that we've read? So try and answer for all the passages or as many as you can. What empathy is a theme of a lot of these, a theme or central message of a lot of these stories. So explain how it is. Go back to the text and provide text evidence for this. Get out your textbook. If you're online, go back to the PDFs of this story on Savvis. How can you as a younger generation empathize with older generations? What do you need to know? So I'm thinking about what do I need to know about my parents' generation that they want me to know? How they grew up, how they were raised, what was valued for them, okay? What do I think I need to know about their generation to have empathy for what they expect of me or my grandparents' generation? Number 6, what advice would you give older generations to empathize with your generation? So what do they need to know to understand your generation? There's a lot of differences between your parents' generation, your grandparents' generation, and yours. So what do you personally think that they don't get about your guys' generation that they need to know? I love that question. I'm really interested to hear your guys' responses on number 6. You're not being mean, you're just being honest. Number 7, are there struggles or gaps that appear already in your generation that you think will become apparent over time? If so, what are those? And number 8, people from generations sometimes have different ways of looking at the world. How does your age affect how you view the world? Right? Everyone looks at the world and how it works in a different way. This is a very broad, open-ended question. So all of these are open-ended. They're not just yes or no questions. They're questions that require explanation, text evidence. If you're referring back to a text, some of those ask you to refer back to one or more of those stories, right? So to get a 4, you have to refer back to those questions that ask you to go back to the story and actually find text evidence with a paragraph number, okay? All right, the rest of the time is yours to work today and Friday, okay? So if you've watched this whole video, you are ready to get prepared for the panel. You got this.